Well, the ship is a wreck, shit stains the deck as Michael Hollow's fellas make more. And Billy is a worry that he's got the scurvy cause Chris ate all the limes in store. Pirate radio with the ship and crew. We got wind in our sails and the sky is blue. There's a devil up our nose, so much work to do for the pirate radio.
I believe we have arrived at the most embarrassing place in baseball when you can say something has been upgraded to full-fledged fiasco. Fiasco, I believe, is the highest of the embarrassments, and baseball has people complaining. A knuckleballer. They stripped down, searched a knuckleballer last night because of their sticky situation, and you've got players dropping their pants on the field. Yesterday, we talked to Samson about how this is a bit orchestrated as part of collective bargaining, make a big show of this. But Manfred yesterday, the commissioner of baseball, David, says that he thinks things are going really well. And why not just sit it out? Why would you come out and say really well unless maybe you're just doing the owner's bidding? It doesn't matter. You're saying basically it doesn't matter. A player can poop on the mound. It does not matter. Anything can happen here. I'm going to say it's going really well.
Well, it reminded me of Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner and the Tasmanian Devil. Is that the one where they're holding the wolf is holding the umbrella over his head while the world is collapsing? The coyote. And he holds the umbrella thinking it's not going to matter. And then all of a sudden the mountain collapses on him. Rob Manfred's in a position where he has no choice but to say what he said. He had to meet the media. He did a Q&A. And his point was, and he said it wrong, but his point was, don't just look at Sergio Romo's skivvies. Don't just pay attention to Scott Boris's clients and what they're saying. Let's look at the overall impact because that's what we're studying. We're seeing that Trevor Bauer is now hittable. We're seeing that Garrett Cole is now hittable and that averages are moving up. That's what he should have said. But instead he said a platitude like, hey, everything's fine.
That's not terrible if the result of this is more offense, correct?
Well, that's the goal here. The goal is to get more offense, and the goal is to stop the pitchers from taking too big an advantage with these sticky substances. And also the goal is to figure out how to keep the economic model in place that has been so beneficial to owners for the last 5 or 10 years.
Is that the chief goal? Like when you look at the number one reason they're willing to endure everything, obviously the chief goal is always the economic model, but is the chief goal to improve offense?
No, the chief goal is actually for people like you to say that baseball is not boring and that there is younger people are engaging in baseball. They're watching baseball. They're playing baseball. That is truly the chief goal. Secondarily, of course, to money.
What level of shame do you have of making the Roadrunner's chief adversary the Tasmanian Devil?
So is the Roadrunner's chief adversary Wile E. Coyote, right? It has to be.
Yes.
I have no idea why the Tasmanian Devil was in my mind, except I always view myself as this whirling dervish of a person. I've already been up for so many hours today. I think we got to call out and say, I'm glad you're okay in Miami. I live in a building my whole life, practically. I never thought about a building collapsing on me. Now I got another thing for me to worry about. Can you imagine? A safe room does not even protect you when a building comes down.
When I came in here today, it's what Billy was talking about 70 or 80 blocks from here, a 12-story building with 136 units. Half of it just collapsed, and there was a search and rescue mission and first responders, and it's obviously awful. You spend a lot of time. I have the occasional thought in a building, well, I'm putting an awful lot of trust in people who did construction 50 years ago. I have that occasional thought, but it's not a pervasive thought. You and Billy are filled with a little more fear more often, so I imagine it's a more pervasive thought with you guys.
I mean, I grew up in the city, in New York City, so I've been in buildings my whole life, and I worked in skyscrapers when I was working on Wall Street, and I've always stayed in hotels. I always want top floors for good views, and I never really think about it. So the problem is when something happens, you have this bias that gets into your head and that you assume that you're next and it's next. And it's totally irrational. It's way safer to be on the 40th floor of a building than it is to cross Fifth Avenue or Collins Avenue or Washington Avenue. It's way safer, but somehow you see the news and then you feel like everything's all screwed up in terms of your odds and your calculation.
Samson giving us his building bona fides over here. I've been in buildings my whole life, Dan.
You did do that. You said you feel like you've been in more buildings than we've been in.
I have, because I grew up in New York City, so I feel like I have been in more buildings. But again, that's not a flex. That's me acknowledging to you that I have so many issues that I can't believe I have to add one more, because until this morning, it was never even a thought. And as I'm sitting here on the 11th floor talking to you currently, believe me, it has occurred to me what would happen while we were taping if all of a sudden and the lights went out. And I have the feeling you just keep going.
Not to be argumentative, but everything's done in buildings everywhere, right? So like not New York versus Miami, but anyone that does anything is pretty much doing it in a building.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, so like Dan's older than you, so Dan's probably been in more buildings than you have.
First of all, Dan is not older than I.
Really? How old
But
are
I
you?
appreciate what you're saying, because he looks older than I, because he's bigger in terms of horizontal and vertical size, but he is not older.
I live in a building right now. My building bona fides are greater than yours right now because you don't live in a building right now.
Yes, I do. What are you talking about?
The last time I talked to you, you were by a pool, and that pool was not by a building.
Well, I'm not currently there at the moment. I don't think we need to actually get into my situs. I think what we need to say is, number one, it is unbelievable what happened. Number two, we have to put the faith in construction workers. And I watched Marlins Park get built, and I had a view many times of watching construction workers and what they do, because many of them care. It's sort of like in sports. Many of the athletes care about the outcome of the game, but some don't. Some just want to get paid. They're there for a payday. But when you are a player, that means your team may not win. When you are doing rebar and steel and other such construction, that is sort of a different story. So I was always very nervous watching the ballpark get built, wondering, is this person paying attention to how he is nailing this steel?
I feel like I'm getting bogged down in the weeds here, but like a house is a building, right?
No.
Put it on the poll, Chris Cody. Is a house a building? Yes
Also,
or no?
we hope for the best.
Why are you putting that on the poll? That a house is a house. A building by definition. Now, a 10-story house, I could argue, is a building.
How about a 2-story house?
No, that's just a house.
How about a 3-story house?
We're getting into a bit of a situation. I think it's 4 and up.
David,
Now we're getting bogged
I
down
just looked
in the
up the
weeds.
definition of building, and the first definition is a structure with a roof and walls, such as a house, school, store, or factory.
Wow.
Thank you, Merriam-Webster.
You have been boxed in. Chris Cody is also tired of getting text messages all morning from people saying, were you in that building?
People are asking me, like, hey, were you in it? And I say no, but like, what would my text be if I was? It put me in an awkward spot.
But people do that living in Miami for as many years as we all have. Don't you get that every time there's a hurricane? Hey, just checking, are you okay? Every time, I assume you all get that.
Yes. Roy, you're the expert in these matters. Before we were talking about buildings and before we got bogged down here, we were talking about Roadrunner and Coyote, and he had mentioned the Tasmanian Devil. Was the Tasmanian Devil a cameo in Roadrunner and Coyote? Would he make the occasional cameo?
No, he was mainly dealing with Bugs Bunny.
Okay, thank you, Roy. I appreciate this is your area of
Separate,
expertise.
like Elmer Fudd also. They're all Looney Tunes, Dan. Just different cartoon. Pepe Le Pew. I don't know if we still talk about him.
We don't know.
Bird. Yeah. All of them. They had their own little storylines.
I always viewed myself as Wile E. Coyote, just trying to always evade everything and needing the occasional protection from the gravitational pull, and somehow always being okay afterwards.
No, we only saw Wile E. Coyote versus the Roadrunner and sometimes versus Bugs Bunny.
Who was your Roadrunner, David?
Sounds like a Google, doesn't it? Are you people coming up with this on your own?
No,
Because
Roy
we're
knows this
here
stuff.
live.
Roy knows this stuff, and Billy was asking you a question, and you're feeling a bit evasive on it.
Yeah, who is your Roadrunner, David, if you were Wile E. Coyote?
It's funny. I would say my childhood.
Wow, a dark and expansive answer.
Deep.
Yes, your entire childhood. Well, he dropped last week out of nowhere that people were always just taking things from him in childhood. That do you have a particular memory of something being taken from you? One that stands out 40 years later or 50 years later that represents a great scar that you have that you carry around in adulthood?
You must love this. Do you analyzing me every Thursday, does that sort of take away your need to analyze yourself and sort of all of the issues that you may have, that you just come right at me every Thursday like you're some sort of Dr. Ruth, really, Lord Dr. Kevorkian, trying to get me to say something or remember things that I spend a lifetime trying not to remember? It's actually my job. Once Jeter got rid of me and I decided to get into this racket, my job is to squash, and eliminate anything from my past. So I don't even want to think about what you're asking me.
Well, I certainly don't want to think about anything that would make me Dr. Ruth in your life, because that is not a consideration that I want to ever have regarding any one of my friends.
I'm going to flex right now and tell you that Dr. Ruth has a son named Joel Westheimer. Joel Westheimer came at Horace Mann School in New York when I was in 6th grade. He was a high school student, and he taught us what a computer was, because computers hadn't come out yet. And we knew that his mother was Dr. Ruth. So Dr. Ruth came and spoke to us, and that was sort of my introduction. Do people know who Dr. Ruth is anymore?
Put it on the poll, Chris Cody. Do you know who Dr. Ruth is anymore?
David, we've been doing some research on this you versus Dan's age situation, and we found out your age. We also found out that you were born in Milwaukee, and you lived there until I believe you were 8. So, I mean, how many buildings are there compared to New York? I feel like the building situation now may be in Dan's favor again.
Story's falling apart.
Yeah, I was born in Milwaukee and moved before 1st grade. So I was actually 5. And you can actually check the divorce documents, as I was the first child allowed to be moved out of state as part of a divorce with his mother from Milwaukee to New York.
The first one, I'm on it.
Yes, well, Billy, you too, please. I'm fine with both of you being out of the show today. Just check the divorce documents. I want to see if we can corner him on this one.
Do it. Alan L. versus Sylvia Samson. Are we really doing this? Can we cut this, or is this part of the show?
No, we are in too deep at this point. In 1st grade, did you have anything taken from you in 1st grade in Milwaukee?
No, I spent 1st grade in New York. I was a kindergartner and moved to New York in between kindergarten and 1st grade, and moved into something called 1520 York Avenue, where I lived in the laundry room. My first bedroom in New York City was also the laundry room right off the little kitchen.
Were there windows?
Yes, there was a window, but it was a little bed, and it was a tiny little laundry room. And that's what you do when you move to New York with a single mother.
Internet says there wasn't windows in that room.
Would you stop?
What do the divorce papers say?
Just check it. Alan Lawrence Samson, my father who recently passed away, and Sylvia Warshauer Samson got divorced in 1974, I believe was the day. It could have been 73, 74, 72, 73, 74, somewhere in that range. And it was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
What else do you find interesting about the baseballs? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to tell you the reason I know this is I had to clean out my dad's stuff who passed away, and I found the decree. That's how I know it. So you can Google it all you want, but I have it. I threw it away, of course, because what does it matter?
Jessica found something. Investigative reporter Jessica has located something.
I found the New York Times marriage announcement. Warshauer Samson, Tenafly, New Jersey, April 18th. Miss Sylvia Warshauer and Alan Lawrence Samson will be married on August 23rd. Mr. and Mrs. Samuel Warshauer have announced their daughter's engagement to the son of Mr. and Mrs. Harry E. Samson of Milwaukee. The bride-to-be expects to be graduated in June from the University of Wisconsin, from which her fiancé was graduated in 1962. Her father is a vice president of Melnor Industries, Inc., Garden Supplies. Mr. Samson is attending Wisconsin Law School. His father, a lawyer in Milwaukee, is president there of First National Bank of Glendale.
I don't know what to say other than that is the wedding announcement of my original 2 parents.
What else from the baseball fiasco do you find interesting?
I find interesting that there is no acknowledgement by either side that this is all positioned. And I've been talking about it on Nothing Personal, and I'm going to talk about it again on today's show.
This part's fascinating. I want people to listen to this because you're basically saying, and this is not something I'm hearing anywhere else, that this is all collective bargaining maneuvering, that they're basically putting on a pantomimed acting show for us to warn us that a work stoppage is coming.
There's no question in my mind. It's not, but be clear, it's not warning that a work stoppage is coming. It's warning that if a work stoppage does come, it's because of the other side. So the union is positioning us to believe that the owners are being unreasonable. The owners are positioning us to believe that the players are being unreasonable, when in fact the power brokers behind the scenes are 2 or 3 owners and 2 or 3 agents, plus Tony Clark with the union and their new hack who they hired, who is a very, very big-time fighter named Mayer who wants to fight. This is what everyone's been waiting for if you are a player. You've been waiting to get back a few economic benefits that you gave up in the last several collective bargaining agreements. And all this sticky substance it's like a fugazi. It's meant to distract you from what's really going on behind the scenes, which is an effort from the owners to not give away anything they've gained in the last 2 or 3 agreements.
What are the biggest disagreements that we have in the collective bargaining agreement? Which ones are the deal breakers, the ones that are really going to be problematic?
Arbitration and service time manipulation. What the players are focusing on now, and much to the chagrin of the owners, because actually, if you think about it, the owners last time were forced to give up all sorts of meaningless things that the players wanted, like food and chefs and planes and game times. None of that mattered, but that's what the union wanted. Now the union wants something totally different. They want players to be called up earlier and to be eligible for arbitration earlier. Now, when a player comes up, he's the property of his team for 3 years at the minimum salary. And then the next 3 years, you're in something called arbitration, where an arbitrator decides your salary, but it's set. It's a pretty finite thing. And you're not a free agent for 6 years. I have always said, and I've spoken to the commissioner about this for years, I would offer to the players to make every single player a free agent every single year. And you know what? All the bitching and moaning they do, they would turn that offer down, because they know that if players were free agents every year, they'd get less money because they'd be paid on actual performance, not on past performance.
But if you were offering that, would that not be a winning move? If what you're interested in is public relations and public opinion, I believe that fans would say, well, what's wrong with that? You don't get any guarantees here. It's fend for yourself. It's democracy. It's meritocracy.
So I would offer free agency immediately. But the problem is and I could get 23 votes to do it on the ownership side. I could get 23 owners to say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of arbitration. We're going to get rid of service time manipulation. Everybody is at market value, because that's not going to change my payroll. I'm happy to allocate my $80 million or my $100 million in a different way and give $10 million to a player who's just starting, like a Wander Franco with the Tampa Bay Rays. Instead of him making $500,000 this year, he'd come in, and if I'd say, all right, I'm going to give you $5 or $6 million right now. Have a good year. Next year, I'm going to sign you for 20 because you're going to be worth that if you do what he's already done or maybe in the process of doing. But for every one of the Wander Francos or the Fernando Tatises, there's a million guys who are paid millions of dollars who just suck. So I would offer the whole kit and caboodle to the union, and they won't be able to turn it down without not just looking terrible, but their players would have to say, wait a minute, it's the old players who wouldn't like it. The young players would love it.
Baseball is crazy jealous that basketball and football have salary caps, correct? Because they have salary caps so the owners can't be idiots.
No, we have a salary cap. They have a salary cap. They just don't call it that. It's called the competitive balance luxury tax threshold. When that was negotiated as part of a collective bargaining agreement, we all laughed within baseball because the union didn't realize they had just agreed to a salary cap without the concomitant salary floor. The reason why we don't want an actual cap is that always comes with a floor. You've got to spend a certain amount of money. That's not part of the collective bargaining agreement. All you have to do is spend it with anything. There's no minimum other than $500,000 per player times 26 players. I guess that's the floor. But that luxury tax threshold that only one team goes over and sometimes none, that's a true cap.
So are you arguing that baseball has a better cap than the other sports for that reason?
It's funny you say that. Yes, because there's no floor. All of these basketball teams, have you not noticed how many crappy players get paid so much money in the NBA? It started with John Koncak, who's a name that no one remembers. I don't know if you remember that name. He was a player who played for the Atlanta Hawks, and he signed this outrageous contract. And what's happened now is teams have to spend a certain amount of money, so they're allocating it because there's a maximum contract in basketball. So that means some of the mediocre players are getting 10, 15, 18 million dollars, and then you're wondering why they're bad money trades that are happening.
I have not heard that, though. You're saying that baseball's financial arrangement is something that is stricter in terms of keeping the owners within bounds than basketballs and footballs when it comes to spending.
Oh, there's no question. No one will say that because no one wants to be heard saying that they took advantage of the union. No one in baseball will tell you that they have the advantage because of the luxury tax threshold. They'll all tell you that's not a salary cap. Teams feel free to go over that. But the punishment they get is so significant that teams treat it like a hard cap. I'd like you to watch the Yankees, watch the Cubs, who are good enough that they could be adding, and they're far below the threshold. See if any team goes over the threshold at this trade deadline coming up July 30th. I will bet you dollars to donuts that no team who is not over the threshold now, and it's only the Dodgers, I believe. I think I'm right, but you can Google it if you can find my parents' wedding announcement. I believe that not one team will go over the threshold at the deadline.
Let's take a minute for our friends over at Candid. Unhappy with your smile? You don't have to be. Thousands of people have used Candid, the clear, comfortable, removable, and practically invisible aligners to help straighten their teeth, and now they love their smile. Just like Justin from Atlanta. He had gaps in his teeth in both the front and the side. He always noticed that people would always look at my mouth first, so he went looking for a fix, and Candid ended up being the perfect company for him. And Candid is here to help straighten your teeth so you can fall in love with your smile too. Your treatment is prescribed and closely monitored remotely by a licensed orthodontist who's an expert in tooth movement. You'd have the same quality of care you'd get from an in-office orthodontist from the comfort and convenience of your own home. With Candid, the same orthodontist who created your plan is with you from start to finish, so you never have to wonder how you're doing. I started using Candid, and even though the finished product is in 6 months, I started seeing results right away. Become your best you. Start straightening your teeth today. Right now, you could save $75 on Candid Starter Kit. Go to candidco.com/Dan and use code Dan. That's Candid, capital C, capital O.com/Dan, code Dan. Take advantage of this limited time offer to save $75 on your starter kit. candidco.com/Dan, code Dan.
So in baseball, owners do not go over their budget. Owners never go over. I was going to ask you what percentage of time, when you mentioned budget and payroll, an owner simply can't control himself, and next thing you know, they're going over budget.
All the time, because the majority of teams, 28 teams, their budget is way below the competitive luxury tax threshold. Jeffrey would go over budget every year. That's the irony, is you all criticized him for not spending money. We lost money so many different years, but he would say, all right, but I want this pitcher, I want this pitcher, I want this player, I want this player. We didn't put them together well enough to win, other than the World Series in 2003. But owners do this all the time, where they're told by their president what their payroll should be, and then the owners decide at the end of the day where they're going to go, but not when they're up against the luxury tax threshold. Why do you think the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts? Do you think they traded him because they thought he sucked?
David, I don't want to call you a liar here, but I'm not finding any evidence of this divorce on the internet.
Yeah, you're right, actually. I totally lied. My parents did not get divorced. You nailed it.
Why do you want your parents first one? Your parents are still married. Impossible. Don't you love your parents? What's going on here?
You've never been in a building.
You want your parents to be divorced? This feels going on.
This is wrong.
I found evidence of the divorce, Cody. You're just bad at Googling stuff.
Oh, wow. What did you find, Jessica? Jessica found evidence of the divorce. Chris is bad at everything.
I just went for the joke. I didn't even look it up.
You bastard! You don't live by a real chicken!
David, it says here that I have to go to the courthouse in which the files were filed to read the full disclosure, so I can't actually verify the decree in the divorce proceedings.
Yeah,
but
I ran into the same thing.
The divorce did, in fact, happen. You're correct.
I'm touched. Hold on. I need a break here, Dan, because I have a little tear in my eye that somehow I convinced Jessica that, in fact, I wasn't lying about something that is so obvious in every way, having everything to do with every bone in my body. But yet you had a GTS, Google that shit, and you discovered something. That's fantastic. Thank you for validating me, Jessica. Thank you.
You gave us both of their full names for a reason. I presume you wanted us to fact check you.
I couldn't have cared less about you fact checking what I tell you. I actually, if I had to put it on the scale of me caring about you fact checking whether my parents got divorced in the 1970s, it's 0. 0.
Here's a silver lining, though, Jess. If you go to the courthouse to get those records, another building you've been in.
Yeah.
True.
The courthouse is very small. It's not a building. It's sort of just a big house.
It's a federal
Put
building.
it on the poll, Chris Cody. Is a courthouse a building? Yes or no?
Of course it is. That's not poll worthy.
You said what? You said it was too small.
My God. Can we move on past the building situation and just, please, can we get back to talking about what happened last night?
Please, go ahead. What else from last night? Because it was 2 nights ago that I thought the more interesting stuff happened, but maybe it's just because it was the first night or the first time I was seeing the adults behave like children.
Oh, I wasn't talking about baseball. What were you talking about?
What were you talking about? What happened last night? Where?
I was talking about the NBA. I thought that's what this whole show was about.
You want to talk about Bucks Hawks?
That's why we bring him on, Dan.
Wait, I thought that we were talking about Trae Young and Luka and the 2018 draft and the 48 points he had. Milwaukee. Do you remember this entire show started about me being born in Milwaukee? Did you not bring that up because of the game in Milwaukee last night?
I think we just brought that up because we were fact-checking you on New York and the number of building bona fides you had.
Interesting. I thought you were trying to bridge to the Bucks-Hawks game and the performance by Trae Young, but I guess you've got other people on your ship to talk about that.
Did you want to talk about that? That Hawks team has surprised me at every turn, and Trae Young is a lot better than I thought he was going to be when he was at Oklahoma.
Do you often evaluate college players and then predict how they're going to be in the NBA and then reflect on whether or not your predictions were correct?
The ones that I do most poorly, yes. I had Greg Oden before Kevin Durant. So, yes, there are certain ones that I do remember. Now, I didn't think Trae Young was going to be bad, but I just didn't think he was going to be, somebody who could do 48, 11, and 7 or whatever he did last night.
It's very bizarre, the records that are happening. And I wanted to ask about that because as an NBA fan for all these years, there'd never been a Hawks player. So Dominique Wilkins, right, had never had a game like that in the conference finals. Maybe the Hawks have never been to the conference finals. You're seeing just more records happening with people younger doing things more often, like Russell Westbrook getting the triple-double record. And I'm wondering if it's just a reflection of the change in the NBA. And I was watching the game and thinking about that. Trae Young is sort of a throwback player when he goes into the lane with the floaters and how he drives to the basket. He doesn't just settle for threes and chuck and duck. And I like the way the Hawks play, and that's interesting as they go through the playoffs. They may be a better team than the Bucks as a team because the Bucks are sort of isolation with Giannis, and then he's swinging around to Middleton. If he's not hitting like he wasn't last night, they're going to lose. And can the Hawks make the NBA Finals? I'm going to call Jamie Gertz and ask her, but I think they can.
I've said no all along, but I've been wrong about that team all along. When you talk about team play, he created, assisted, or scored 80 of their 108 points. And the distortion of the numbers that have happened in that sports is largely because of three-pointers, but he didn't even shoot that well from 3 last night. You're right about the floaters. He controlled the entire game. Not only did he control the entire game, Drew Holiday is a first-team defensive player, and when he, crossed him over and then shimmied on him, Drew Holiday looked lost because of the skill set. Took his time before shooting a three-pointer.
Was that a playground shimmy? I was watching it. I saw the hips move. I actually didn't define that as a shimmy. I thought it was him doing sort of a tick as he got ready because he was so open. Do you think as a rookie, he was actually in a conference finals game doing a shimmy prior to shooting?
Chris Cody put that on the poll. He is not a rookie, but Chris Cody put it on the poll. Was that a shimmy at Le Batard Show? You enjoyed that game, though. You got immersed in that game. Did you find yourself rooting for the Hawks? Because we're going to have new blood in the playoffs, and all these younger players are – it's now the younger players. You got Kawhi and you got Chris Paul, but basically there are a lot of younger players coming for the stuff of the old guys.
It's happening in every sport, isn't it? Take a look at baseball. You got Tatis and Acuna and now Franco coming up. It's all about young players, which is why – bringing this full circle, why the union is so concerned about getting these young players paid, because they don't get paid. The NBA, of course, doesn't have that issue. I think that the Hawks, I'm rooting for the Bucks because I love Milwaukee, so that is my preference. I'd like Giannis to have a title. The Bucks haven't won a title since 1971 with Lou Alcindor and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, obviously. I wonder, did you know that, Jessica, that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's former name was Lou Alcindor?
I did know that.
Okay. And did you know he won a title with the Bucks?
Can't say I did.
You mentioned Franco, David. Everyone in baseball is talking about this guy because he's as can't miss gets. So tell us about Franco.
So anyone who tells you that a prospect is can't miss, just delete that person. Don't use that person as a professional, as a resource for you on your show, because that person doesn't know anything about anything. You can go 4 for 4. You can go 12 for your first 18. You can throw a no-hitter in your first outing as a rookie pitcher. That there is zero correlation between that and whether or not you're going to have a full, great career. It is so difficult to have a long, good career in baseball. Could Franco be a great player forever? Could Tatis? I don't know. You don't sign players to long-term deals like that because it's so risky. But Franco has the tools, not a ton of power, even though he had a home run in his first game. He's just a toolsy guy, and he's not a flashy guy. He can hit for average, which in this day and age is meaningless. Right now, it's all about power, and he doesn't have the most power. Slick fielding, though, good arm, number one prospect. He's really, really good. Does that mean he's going to be a perennial all-star or that he's going to have a 15-year career? There are way more flameouts than there are Miguel Cabreras, who also, when he was brought up, was looked to have a long career, which he ended up having. There's a lot more flameouts than Cabreras.
That took a turn I was not expecting because everyone in baseball is talking about this guy as a prospect. And you just went that can't miss isn't can't miss, that he's toolsy, but that average doesn't matter. You were surprisingly negative. Even while saying he's a very good prospect, the number one prospect, I was surprised. Yes, of course, it's a random game. You can guarantee nothing. Anybody can get hurt. Anybody can short circuit. But Franco is talked about like the best of the players who are coming up are talked about, where it's as guaranteed as you can be in a sport that doesn't come with those.
Fair enough, and I'll characterize it that way. That's why he's ranked the number one prospects, because of all the things I said. But you were trying to say that this is now the beginning of this amazing career. Now, the fact that he's a Tampa Bay Ray gives him a better shot than most because they have a way of making their players way better and causing great jealousy and consternation among other teams trying to be like the Rays. So that's what he has going for him. But other than that, I mean, I certainly wouldn't set him apart and say he's going to be as good or better than Tatis or Acuna or not. You got to let these players play for a long number of years to see whether or not they end up sort of being Hall of Fame worthy or even in that conversation.
David, I don't know if you realize what you just did, but it's sort of like rubbing a genie bottle. You said a particular word that always lures out around here for about more than 15 years, a particular person. Has that person arrived? Because every time I hear that word, he's there. Yeah, every time.
Toolsy?
Every time that word gets said around here,
I pop up.
That guy pops up. It doesn't matter where I am. Anytime anyone is talking about tools in sports.
I love tools, man.
He just popped up as soon as he heard tools.
Tools?
You should have seen it, David. He was radiant. He was glowing. Do you have a movie that you're reviewing for us this week?
It takes a tool, right? I have one question for you, Stugotz, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
When you say toolsy, are you evaluating a player and the actual 5 tools in baseball, or are you using it from a personality standpoint?
No, I'm evaluating the players in baseball when I talk toolsy. And listen, for me, I only care about a couple of tools. I don't care about 5 tools. I care about 2 tools: home runs, RBIs. That's it. That's what the game is all about, David.
RBIs is nothing. It's RBI.
Ribbies.
Runs batted in, not
whatever.
runs batted ins. People say that.
Tomato. Yeah.
Potato. You're saying potato, not tomato. I happen to understand why you like home runs and RBIs, because you're used to the statistics that come out in the old days where it was just average and then home runs and RBI, right?
Yes.
That's what was on the TV.
It was a simpler time, David. Yes.
It was. And that would make you a phenomenal evaluator. I think you'd get a job. If it doesn't work out with the Le Batard, you could be in the Rays front office.
Okay.
The 5-tool player is only in baseball, right? The tools, we don't really talk about tools in another sport other than baseball. Not that way.
I'm trying to think of the football tools or the basketball tools. You've got shooting, defending, you've got speed. I don't know. Can we talk about a movie I've been dying to review with you, because it's so upsetting to me?
Upsetting?
Yeah. I have an actor who I love, and his name is Seth Rogan. And I love him because he makes me laugh. I love him because he's original, because he's intelligent, and because he finds a way to put his personality onto the screen in a way that resonates with me. But now he's become a caricature of himself. And his performances and his movies, to me, have suffered as a result. I watched An American Pickle the other day, which is a movie that he was in, that he basically starred in, playing 2 parts, both his grandfather and himself, about an immigrant who ends up growing pickles. And I found it to be not funny, not interesting. I found it to be just full of stereotypes and cheap jokes and stupid jokes, the likes of which I'd expect from someone other than Seth Rogen. And I'm upset about it.
It's hard to make comedy these days, David. It's been a minute since people don't feel like laughing. I don't know. I don't actually. Do you have a theory on this? Because I've said it a number of times, but I haven't explored in any way why it is it's been so long since America gathered around a hangover, gathered around and talked about a comedy with word of mouth.
Well, because right now we're in a situation where what makes things funny is stereotypes, right? Do you remember the movie Up in the Air? Which was one of my top movies. I don't know if you saw it. It was with George Clooney.
Travelers, about a couple of business travelers or work-related business travelers.
They go around firing people, and he's online in security going through the airport, and he's deciding which line to go on. And he looks at people with a baby and says, don't get on that line. They've got strollers. It takes too long. He looks at a line with Asian Americans or just Asian people and says, that's the line to get on because they wear slip-on shoes, bless their soul. And she said, how could you say that? And he said, well, I stereotype, and I do that because generally it's true. And I'm thinking about a line in a movie that wouldn't play today. All of the different things that played in years ago, you can't do. So comedians are trying to find different ways to be funny because the ways of racism and sort of nationalism you can't do. So it's like a new training has to happen. It's like people who are surgeons learning how to do it like on ER with their clippers inside a scope as opposed to opening up the heart. You need complete new training, and we're sort of in that area now.
I like Seth Rogen, but I'm surprised to hear that he's one of your favorites, and I was also surprised in general by the run he had after 40-Year-Old Virgin as a guy who's just a funny stoner, and he got a lot of opportunities there based on stealing 40-Year-Old Virgin as an ancillary character, where he got a 10-year run, basically, of being able to run Hollywood and make whatever he wants. And it's not surprising, is it, to you, that there wouldn't be a master evolution there for a thespian? I mean, that's not the kind of actor he was.
Well, there are some who can, right? There's a Steve Martin who goes from a wild and crazy guy, and he sort of matures. Robin Williams goes from Mork and Mindy to doing major movies. Even Bill Murray from Caddyshack to Lost in Translation or some of the Wes Anderson movies. So there are ways that actors can evolve as they get older, because what's funny and cool when you're 25 is not as funny or as cool when you're 45. Now, listen, everyone likes getting stoned, or I get it. It's fun. But there's something about when you're in college, there goes from appropriate to creepy. And the question is, where are you on that scale as you're engaging with your audience? And you want to avoid the creepy part of the scale. And I just don't know that Rogan has done that.
I have range.
Every time I check in on an article with Seth Rogan, David, it's either he's smoking or doing pottery.
Like pot? Is that a pun?
No, pottery. He's actually he likes ceramics and he likes doing pottery. Every magazine article I read about him, it's a hobby that he has.
He makes ashtrays for weed smoking.
You mean like Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze and Ghosts type of pottery?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've actually never been on a kiln before.
Jessica's been made furious now. What are you so angry about?
I love Seth Rogen. I feel like you guys aren't giving him enough credit as a writer and a producer. I heard his new book came out and it's really funny and great. I mean, man, this is hard to hear for me.
I think you're being defensive. I love Seth Rogen as well. I'm merely saying An American Pickle. Did you watch An American Pickle?
I did not watch An American Pickle, David.
So I guess that's sort of the end of this conversation then, isn't it?
But in American Pickle, the whole premise is he falls into a vat of pickle stuff, and then he wakes up a century later. How good could that movie be?
He's Seth Rogen. You gotta make good movies. You can't ride your stoner reputation from Pineapple Express forever, right? Or Knocked Up. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you, and the power that he has is going to disappear, and he's just going to become another sort of stoner who used to be famous for a short period of time a long time ago.
I mean, but no one expected Cheech Marin to go on to make serious movies.
Seth Rogen is not. You talk about a poll. Are you telling me that Seth Rogen is as good and qualified and talented as Cheech and Chong? It's not. They're not even in the same neighborhood.
Who's better?
Cheech and Chong are way more talented. They're way smarter in terms of all the writing and that they did of their movies. It's not even close for me.
Is that a serious thing that you just said? That's a serious thing?
Oh, no, he's serious, Dan. Yeah, he's not alone on that,
I
by the way.
thought you were going to go. Cheech and Chong did not dominate over a decade all of Hollywood.
Are you? Hold on. You're not even close. Cheech and Chong in their day had way more power in Hollywood than Seth Rogen has currently.
I'm not disputing that Cheech and Chong had a wonderful run. What I'm disputing is that they didn't get to make the kind of movie that Seth Rogen produced and directed, which is the one. Now, it wasn't. It was the one where he starred with all the people and the world was ending, and it was sci-fi, and it was.
This is the end.
This is the end. This is the end. That Cheech and Chong didn't get that kind of Hollywood star power to make a movie.
Yeah, but Dan, Cheech and Chong were trailblazers. That's what David is trying to say. They had a lot of power in Hollywood. David's right. They were the first to do it. They were trailblazers, and I agree with David on this one. And
he's being serious. What power did they have? Just because you keep saying they were trailblazers doesn't mean it's the truth.
When you're the first to do it, I mean.
What does that mean? Please tell me more. You know what? Now that you're out there with this and you've had a strong opinion about this.
You also said a lot of people say that.
They blazed a lot more than trails. Tell us a little more. Tell us a little more about what it is, your expertise, because you got in here aggressively on Cheech and Chong. Go ahead and give us what else you've got beyond your trailblazer move.
I felt like David really needed support. Now, perhaps this is the support he did not want, but I felt like he needed some support. But Cheech and Chong, Dan, when you're a trailblazer, when you're the first to do something,
all he's got.
You have a lot of power.
He doesn't have anything else. You can't like your ally here, Samson. You cannot. He doesn't have anything.
Tell him, Dave.
So my concern, Stu, is that your ability to articulate our position is not exactly what I would hope for in a spokesperson. So I think that sticking to the one-word answers, and you're missing a tool. The tool that you're not toolsy enough in this regard. It's not that Cheech and Chong were trailblazers. If you're going to use the word blaze, you're going to open yourself up to Le Batard saying, oh, they blazed all right. They were getting stoned all day. What you have to say is, back in those days before streaming, before there were other ways to make movies and get audiences, they dominated in a way that today they would be even more explosive than Seth Rogen. That's like comparing people from a different era in basketball or baseball. You can't do it. So you have to look at them where they were at the time of movies. Cheech and Chong in the 70s were far bigger in relation to the movie industry than Seth Rogen of the 2000s to the movie industry. That is indisputable.
That did.
David, why did you make Dan such a tightwad there? That was weird.
You made.
I don't know what that means.
Well, tightwad's not used correctly there.
A fuddy-duddy.
A fuddy-duddy, yes. He made you... He made me very, very stiff. I don't think you understood the restraint it took for me not to call them smokespersons instead of spokespersons. you are in a place here, though, David. These guys they were doing something at a time, counterculture in America, that it was, obviously a lot more taboo than it is now. I'm wondering if Jessica even knows who Cheech and Chong are.
I've heard of Cheech and Chong, but when you just said Cheech Marin, I was like, Cheech Marin? I had to Google it, looked at his IMDb. I'm like, all right, he's got some bona fides on there.
Nash Bridges, yeah.
One of them was the caddy in Tin Cup, right?
You know that, Dan, you are 2 generations from being someone Googling, was that Dan Le Batard? I'm trying to remember what that was. Let me Google. Oh, yeah, Google. He had that Pod Freedom thing or piratey thing. Or was that Stu Weiner? I can't remember. And then they'd move on to the next thing.
Yes.
2 generations away.
Yes, David, that's the way it happens to everyone. That's one of the things that happens with mortality. It's why Conan O'Brien stands over the grave of Calvin Coolidge and wonders, when's the last time anyone ever mentioned Calvin Coolidge? Yes, that's correct.
And everybody knows Tommy Chong, the Pineapple, season 1, Masked Singer.
Yeah.
See you later, David.
Oh, my God. That was too funny.
Welcome to The Big Suey, a podcast exclusive.
Risky move.
Just when you thought the show could not be more diluted.
Walk the plank.
Bam!
No more free Disney trips.
Now here's the marching band of nowhere.
Matey.
Fatface.
Dan's been stress eating.
And the habitual liar.
Stugotz can't be trusted.
The Big Suey.
Yo ho, a pirate radio life for me.
Juju, does any sporting event happen in Atlanta without you being there?
Absolutely not, Billy.
I feel like you need to, you get there and then all right, we're good. Now we can start. You also seem to know everybody.
I was a rapper for a long time before I became a metal art media social guy. So I still use those plugs.
Which one of us do you think, Juju, would be the best rapper? If you could, take one of us under your wing.
Probably Roy, because he says a little bit, he can just ad-lib.
Ooh.
But Jessica on the Pro Tools will be fire.
Really?
Yeah, auto-tune. If you sing auto-tune, I can make that sound fantastic.
What about that bullshit that Usher pulled with T-Pain, Juju? Did you see that?
Made me so mad.
So mad.
Yeah.
I want Usher to not have anything go well for him for the rest of his career. I don't want to wish harm on him, just professionally. I'd like to wish harm on him.
That seems fair, Bill.
He depressed T-Pain for 4 years by saying that auto-tunes ruin music.
And he has songs with auto-tune. And also, Usher, I know I'm going to get some crap for this, but Usher's whole performance is jumping on trampolines, dancing around, T-Pain, performer. Usher, vocally, not my thing.
One of the best dancers ever, Usher is.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, don't come out here and come after T-Pain saying it's gimmicky and his performance is okay, Usher vocally, but it's more of a show. Am I wrong?
Is this your Masked Singer bias? T-Pain was on Masked Singer.
The most talented one that's ever been on the history of the show. Usher, I challenge you to go on the Masked Singer and make Nicole cry, okay? Because T-Pain did it multiple times as the monster and champion of season 1 of The Masked Singer.
Can you find back there the T-Pain Dolphin song? The Dolphin song that T-Pain did?
Yes.
The fight song? Roy, what are you shaking your head no about?
I don't believe we can play that.
Why wouldn't we be able to play that?
No clearance. But this is what we can do, Dan. Chris can sing the Dolphins song.
Why wouldn't? Wait a minute. This is a Dolphin theme song. What do you mean we can't play a regular sports song that was put out by the Dolphins? It's not like copyrighted T-Pain music. You don't think we can play something that was put out by the Dolphins?
I mean, how do you know it's not copyrighted T-Pain music? How do you know that? I don't know. Better safe than sorry.
Let's take our chances. Not better safe than sorry. Why wouldn't we take our... now we're into...
Look what happened to Usher, Dan. He came after T-Pain, and what's happening to him right now? Do you want to go after T-Pain?
It's a sports song that was put out by the team. What do you mean? That is not licensed music the way you think of licensed music.
You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, I'm excited. Let's do this. Come on, find it, Billy. Let's play this thing.
Roy feeling frisky today. How about that?
Roy's the one that said we couldn't do it.
Roy is ultra-conservative in this realm. He doesn't want us being charged for things, and I don't know whether this will be worth it. I just can't believe that a sports song of some sort. Let's see if Billy is right, that T-Pain is the greatest ever, and that Usher is so very wrong for making him depressed for 4 years. Usher was right.
10 more minutes of this.
We can't dispute what Usher was saying, and I don't think that T-Pain had to be depressed for 4 years, but he should have been depressed for a little while, based on what it is that he did to music and what auto-tunes did to music. Oh, look at Jessica, all hurt on behalf of T-Pain. He ruined music.
I mean, first you guys start with Seth Rogan and now T-Pain. It's like, did you just hate the aughts? Did you hate
it's old
2000
through
Samson 2010?
Ridiculous.
I have to talk about the Cheech and Chong thing. Cheech and Chong only did marijuana movies. They only did stoner movies. That is not the only thing Seth Rogen is doing. So what is it that you guys are objecting to with Samson and age specifically?
That take was absurd. Cheech and Chong are better than Seth Rogen. I mean, that's what's absurd. That's absurd.
Take it up with Stugotz here. Look at Stugotz.
He doesn't believe any of what he was saying.
The Trailblazers.
He started it with a lot of people are saying this. A lot of people have said that, which is his tell that you know he's full of it. Who's saying that, and where have you found that so quickly?
His tell that you know he's full of it is just look at his face. It's anything that tumbles from his lips. Incidentally, Stugotz is in New York in a ballroom somewhere in New York. And so we're going to do the show today in a way that isn't going to have its usual chemistry. I'm sure you guys will be very gentle about that. I wanted to get going here, Stugotz, with what the Hawks did last night, not just because I've underestimated them all season, but I've underestimated that guy all season. And since he was at Oklahoma, I have wondered what kind of pro he would be, and I did not think that Trae Young would be a 48-11-6 pro where he's controlling the entire basketball game on the road. He's accounting for 80 of 108 points, either assisted or scored or created in general. And you saw how he shook Drew Holiday. That's one of the best defenders in the league. That guy is on that team, and that team is supposed to be changed because of Drew Holiday's offense and defense. And Trae Young, on a night that wasn't even a good shooting night for him from three, goes 48-11-6 and controls the entire game. I was really surprised by that. I understand it's just one game, and I understand that anyone can win a game one and weird things happen over the course of a series, but I was legitimately surprised, not just that Atlanta won, but that he was able, I mean, it is not like Milwaukee didn't know that that's what you need to slow down on that team, and it evidently can't be slowed down.
But Dan, everyone knows that. No one seems to be able to slow him down, and so that's the beauty of Trae Young, is that The defense is geared to stop him. He knows that. They know that he's the guy, and yet they still can't stop him. I was talking to Tony before we came on air here, and he wants me to co-sign that Trae Young is a superstar. Trae Young is absolutely a superstar. Keep in mind, he is doing this stuff for the first time. This is the first time he's going on the road in an Eastern Conference final against the best team in the East, who just beat the Nets with one of the best players in the world in Giannis, and he's giving you 48 points. And the other thing is, he's got a number 2, or at least he does this postseason, in John Collins. And so I'm going to be interested to see if Atlanta will be a destination for people because they want to play with that guy.
So you thought what of his time at Oklahoma? What did you think he was going to be? Because Steph Curry is a player without precedent, and he was, in college, the only one so far that I have seen in any way compared to Steph. But I simply assumed, given what Steph is and how rare Steph is as a player, that this can't be that. But what he does with the floaters, and then, Capella dunks everything that he doesn't throw into the basket when he caves in your defense. A superstar definition to me, Stugotz, is, can you stop it? Is his best something that your defense can stop? For example, Kevin Durant, when we were talking to Amin yesterday about this, and I didn't do it gratuitously, I did it because we were talking over the course of a couple of days about how great Kevin Durant was in that Game 7, and how it is that Nick Wright was saying he didn't think Kevin Durant could do that. And the reason I asked Amin, who's better, Kevin Durant or Kobe Bryant, and Amin said Kevin Durant, the reason that I asked him that question is because a player of the status of better than Kobe Bryant, that's someone I believe can carry a team. But a definition for me of a superstar in that sport is someone that you are gearing to stop, and it doesn't matter. He's going to get his points, because what are you going to do? You're going to guard him at half court? He's already taking shots that basically only 3 guys in the league can consistently make, Stugotz, right? I mean, you're talking about it's Lillard, him, and Steph Curry who expand the entire court more than anyone else in the sport.
Yeah, you got to guard him when they get to half court. I think that's a pretty good definition of a superstar. Like, he's the guy. The entire offense is geared around that guy, and yet you can't stop that guy. And again, he did it on the road, Dan. Think about this. Now, Chris Middleton, I will tell you, was an absolute disaster last night, and that helped Trae Young out. Chris Middleton needs to be more consistent than he's been. I think he was 0-9 from three-point land last night, and he's got to be better than that. But I think that's a fair definition of a superstar, and Trae Young has arrived at being a superstar this early in his career, which is pretty incredible. Like, are we saying that he's more capable of carrying a team and being a number 1 guy than Steph Curry is? Because I think you'd be right if you're saying that.
No.
I was hoping you were saying that.
No, that is not. No, we're not.
What's too bad?
What are we saying? Why are we saying anything? Why explain this to me about you? Because it's something I simply don't understand. I don't understand this about you. I'm always worried in general about being prisoner of the moment. But why is it that when we get excited talking about anyone who did the thing last night, you keep upping the ante until before we're done, you're going to make him better than Michael Jordan? Like you.
I won't go there.
Well, that's your last stop. Yeah, that is always your last stop. Those are the spikes at the rental car place that are going to make the tires blow out. But why is it that you can't keep pushing this out to a place where all of a sudden, because of last night, Trae Young is now better than the MVP of the league? Why must you do that?
I don't know. It's a weird habit I have. I like pushing things out. I like taking them to the extreme. And like I have, listen, you said it. It wasn't me, and I'm just agreeing with you and supporting my friend. I do think Trae Young is better than Steph Curry. It's a great take by you, Dano. I mean,
Roger
I think you said it.
Sherman, I did not say that. Roger Sherman says this of Mike Budenholzer, and he's got it exactly right. Mike Budenholzer always looks like he just bet an amount of money he can't afford at a casino game he doesn't fully understand. Chris, you laugh a little loud, but a lot of people are saying that Budenholzer looks like you in about 10 years.
Wow.
I'll take it.
Should you?
There is something about Budenholzer. You simply do not trust him, correct? You simply do not, and it's his face. Can that hair beat that face? Because I believe the reason I have underestimated Trae Young is only because of his hair. I don't have anything else. It's not like he wasn't great at Oklahoma. It's not like people haven't been saying for years now, haven't been making for years now, the Steph Curry comparison.
Oh no, they've been making him. You're right. Since the day he walked on to Oklahoma's campus, the first second we saw him play a game, that was with the obvious comparisons. First off, I don't think Budenholzer is an insult. I'm with Chris. I think if Chris looks like Budenholzer 10 years from now, he would be thrilled.
I would take it. If I was Chris, I would take Budenholzer. He's not a bad-looking guy.
I feel like I should be insulted by this.
No, not at all.
Is it because he's actually good-looking, or you just are like, for what I look like, looking like that will be an upgrade? Like, I don't know how I should take this.
Yeah, I think you should take it that way.
Sneaky good-looking, I'll say it. Me, not Budenholzer. Me.
Sneaky good looking. So let me see what we have here. You guys are saying that Chris Cody, if in 10 years Chris Cody looks like Mike Budenholzer, he will have achieved at handsome and at life and you'll take it now because Stugotz is always asking the question around here. Would you take dying at 75 right now? Dying at 80 years old right now? Would you take it? You're saying that if I promised you Budenholzer right now, you would take it.
Well, the thing is, 10 years from now, though, Chris would look like 51-year-old Budenholzer. Okay, yeah. So he'd be 44 looking like a 51-year-old Budenholzer. I'd still take it if I were you, honestly.
Let me look at this full body.
Yeah, you got to take it, Chris. I have looked at the full body.
Let me drink it in.
Are you?
You lose weight.
You know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. Now I want to play this game now with coaches in sports. Like, what coach do we all look like in sports?
All right.
What coach do you want to look like in 10 years in sports and not want to look like in 10 years?
Well, I would have guessed that nobody would have wanted to look like Budenholzer, but look at how wrong I am. Look at how incredibly wrong I am. Chris Cody has just told you that he aspires to looking like he just bet an amount he can't afford on a casino game he doesn't fully understand.
I mean, that is me.
I believe that Budenholzer is underestimated or criticized because of how he looks. That is a guy, before this Hawks team, Stugotz, that guy ran the best Hawks team that we've probably seen in our lifetimes. That was a 61-win Hawks team that got Budenholzer the coach of the year. And I believe that we don't believe him capable of exceptional leadership and wisdom because just look at him. He looks like Chris Cody in 10 years.
Because of his face. I love that.
Some people tell me I look like Ryan Day, and I would take that.
Oh, I would love to look like Ryan Day. I am jealous.
I don't see it at all, Billy.
No one told me that.
Who told you that? It's what I was going to say.
I'll be honest with you. People tell me Mark Trestman.
Tress.
No. I would take Trestman. He's 65 right now. If I could look like that at 65, I'd take it. But Ryan Day, I would take too. Some people tell me that.
You actually really do look like Mark Trestman with his glasses on. Holy shit. I never put two and two together before. This is uncanny.
It is. It's the surface area of the face. It is. It's the glasses, and it is. It's Trestman. You are absolutely right. But I don't know where it is that he's getting Dan. Ryan Day. Isn't Ryan Day a bit smoldering?
People have been saying it, Dan.
Nobody's been saying it. You just admitted to fraud.
Ryan Day is not smoldering. He just has like his eyes look tired because he probably sleeps in his office every night. I think you're confusing that for like a model like smolder look.
Ryan Day has beautiful skin. He really does. Rosy cheeks. He is a handsome devil. I'm telling you, smooth skin.
He looks like a movie villain. Like let's not beat around the bush. If there's a crime in a movie and Ryan Day is the culprit, you wouldn't be surprised, right?
I think I'm more of a Scott Frost. That's what I see when I see myself.
What? Scott Frost is a bit chiseled and regal
like
and long.
You know, red hair. People say all redheads look alike. I mean, I look like Scott Frost. Tony, you agree? Tony agrees. Tony's nodding.
I think you're more Nick
You're
Nurse
too
than
freckly.
anything.
Yeah.
There seems to not be a lot of options for me. There are not a lot of black coaches, and Any of the sports.
Scott Frost is chiseled.
And it's a dangerous game, Roy. We don't want to start playing the black people look like other black people game.
The most dangerous of games.
It's one of the most dangerous. Put it on the poll, Chris Cody, please. Is Ryan Day a bit smoldering?
What if I have a lifestyle change? Could I be Scott Frost? Like, what if I just like completely 180? You know, get a trainer.
He's long. You're not long. You're not.
You don't know that.
I feel like we do know that about you.
He has a long ass.
Long white ass,
yes.
Stugotz. Tony looks like Cliff Kingsbury, right? In like 10 years?
No, Cliff Kingsbury looks like Tony. Let's be clear. Okay? Hey, Stugotz here. I want to tell you about my friends at Verizon Wireless. I've been a Verizon customer for over a decade now. I love the network. I love the coverage. I love the service. I love Verizon. How about that? And we thank them again for sponsoring the Le Batard Show 24-hour marathon. That was fantastic. Listen, nobody builds 5G like Verizon builds 5G. No one else built this bold because no one else thought this big. And the more you do with 5G, the more building it right matters. The more your network matters. The more Verizon engineers go in the extra mile matters. It's Verizon versus Verizon, and who wins? You win. 5G, built right from America's most reliable network. Most reliable based on rankings from RootMetrics' second half 2020 U.S. report of 3 mobile networks. Results may vary. Award is not an endorsement.
Here's a take. I would take Bill O'Brien's chin. I really would.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I think I would.
It's a butt chin. Nobody wants a butt chin. All of Bill O'Brien's friends make fun of him about his butt chin.
Do they? Are you allowed to make fun of that?
I make fun of him.
In 2021, you can make fun of a butt chin?
Bill O'Brien, put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Are you allowed to make fun of a butt chin in 2021? But yes, he has admitted, Bill O'Brien's friends all make fun of his butt chin and tell him, how do you use a razor? How do you get in there into those difficult spots?
Aside from the butthole in the middle of it, it's a strong chin, is it not?
Well, it has to be a strong chin in order to take...
It ate the rest of it.
The indentation. You'd be okay with a butt chin. Nobody wants a butt chin.
Besides the butthole in the middle of it.
Just ignore that.
He does not have a strong chin or a strong jawline, Billy. And also, it always disappointed me when the Texans played on Christmas that CBS and like the other networks wouldn't have fun with the Christmas decoration things. Because they put like the Christmas ornaments around like the score bug and stuff. Like, what if we just hung a little Christmas ornament from Bill O'Brien's chin? Just like hung it from the little dimple on his chin. Wouldn't that be cute?
I love that visual image. Funny, it's what I go for more than cute. The idea of a green and red Christmas ornament, bulbous, hanging from the chin of Bill O'Brien.
It's cute.
Cute. Like a mistletoe.
Festive.
Like a mistletoe
Cute.
between on Bill O'Brien's chin.
Where do we stand on mistletoe, just out of curiosity?
Not in 2021.
It doesn't exist anymore, right? Like mistletoe is something that we've gotten rid of?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. Do you think the mistletoe business is hurting? Do you think that mistletoe...
Oh, I think it's thriving, Dan. I do. Yeah.
Stugotz, you don't have another move here other than that. Anytime I
go to mistletoe.com, I'll check out the sales from last year, and we'll find out together. Give me a second. I think mistletoes had a fantastic... I'm telling you, I read this somewhere. I don't remember where. And it wasn't mistletoe.com. They don't like to tout themselves too much. But I will find out. Mistletoe, I believe they had their best sales in like a decade last year. I'm serious.
A quote from Bill O'Brien here to my father on Highly Questionable in 2013. Quote, I still don't know how to shave my chin. I blame my mom for that. She's got a dimple in her chin. I love my mom, but she doesn't have to shave her chin like I do. That's a great question. Hey, thanks a lot. My buddies that I grew up with and went to school with, that's a great source of chop busting. Is there something growing out of it right now? I store water in there. I can sip water out of it. I believe that anybody who uses the phrase chop busting doesn't like their chops busted. Put that on the poll, please, Chris. Anyone who uses the phrase chop busting, do they like their chops busted?
Couldn't Bill O'Brien also just grow a beard and then you wouldn't see his chin?
I believe still that that's what Wanstedt did. I believe that mustache... No. The mustache did not cover the chin. The mustache, I don't know for sure. And if it is for sure, I would feel great remorse about making fun of the Wanstache for many years, but it is something that people have theorized that Dave Wanstead had that mustache that was very mockable because it was meant to disguise something.
I think Bill O'Brien's beard would grow into a swirl pattern, though. Like, it would be like a swirly
awesome.
whirlpool beard.
Like a remolino.
That's ideal.
Well, why don't you explain
I'm sorry, what was that?
You know, a remolino. So people have that on the back of their head. Some people have more than one. It's almost like the pattern in your hair that looks like if you're looking at a hurricane map when a hurricane's forming. Wow. It's like that. You see kind of like the swirl around. Yeah, where your hair starts coming out of and then eventually fills the rest of a hair hurricane. Yeah. Exactly.
Stugotz, I wanted to talk to you about what it is that happened with Jay Williams yesterday, because not but a week ago, right, there was this controversy at ESPN because Kevin Durant called Jay Williams a liar. Jay Williams reported that Kevin Durant had told people, don't ever put me in the same breath with Giannis, and Kevin Durant very strongly said that wasn't true, came out publicly and said, you're simply lying. And Jay Williams now finds himself in a situation that the entire internet is looking at something that he did and said, you're not telling the truth here, which is he tweeted out that Boston had just hired its first head coach of color yesterday when they've had 6 head coaches who are black, including Bill Russell, who went to the Hall of Fame and was one of the most famous and first of the Boston coaches.
And 3 of those black coaches won championships with that team.
And Doc Rivers won championships there. And so that was bad
Casey
enough.
Jones. Yeah.
Yes, people were making fun of this. And his response after a couple of hours, after people made fun of this, instead of just saying, you know what, my bad, that was stupid, which is always the way to go. Do not try to kitty litter your way, kick your way out of these situations with all sorts of nonsense. He went the other way, though, and tweeted, as it relates to the Boston Celtics tweet that came from my account a couple of hours ago, I did not post that, and my passcode has now been changed. And nobody believes that for a number of different reasons. I mean, he uses the ampersand and signed. It sounded like Jay Williams, and what Dragonfly Jones pointed out is Jay Williams would have us believe he's the victim of the only hacker ever in the history of hacking who hacked him to congratulate a black person.
And hacked him to put that tweet out? I mean, seriously.
No,
I got to get the Jay Williams account so I can tweet out first coach of color?
What do you do with this, though? What do you do with what just happened here? Because this is such a bad look on so many fronts.
What I do with that is Jay Williams made a mistake. That's it. Jay Williams made a mistake, and he does not want to own up to it because Jay Williams prides himself, doing the morning show at ESPN and the pregame show and postgame for the NBA on ESPN and college basketball, prides himself as a basketball expert, and he made a mistake, and he won't own up to it. That's it. It's that simple.
I want to go back to the ampersand situation. So he doesn't use ampersands. He spells out the word and. What's the excuse there?
No, he uses, what happens is that somebody in his voice does the same thing that Jay Williams does, which Jay Williams, when he's usually tweeting, uses the ampersand, and so did this tweet regardless. Like, this doesn't take a criminal investigation or a private detective of any kind. All of us are looking at this and saying, that's simply not true. Hackers have better things with their time to do than to hack you this poorly.
Unless this is part of the long con, Dan, where a hacker got in and they're trying to establish credibility, put things out there that Jay would normally say. Jay then sees and he's like, did I say that? That seems like something I would say. Yeah, I said that. And then he just forgets, and then you build up to the big one eventually. But what happened is the hacker made a mistake, and they stepped in a little bit, and then Jay's onto him, and now he has to change all the passwords. You know what? I believe him.
You ride with Jay Williams on this. I suppose we can't prove otherwise, Billy, one of the few riding with Jay Williams. But the next question that I would ask you, Stugotz, and you might not be the person to ask because you're one of the few media members anywhere in the history of this realm who's allowed to lie liberally at every turn, and it doesn't stick to you, and credibility is not something that matters in any way. But
Thank you.
If you're in a position where a week ago Kevin Durant is calling you a liar, and then a week later the entire internet is calling you a liar, how damaging is that in real terms for an employee where credibility matters? I'm asking something serious here about something that is silly and flippant, but at what point does something like that, like how many times does something like that have to happen before it's not okay that something like that happens? Because it's such an unnecessary lie, Stugotz. Like, you can't hold on to your credibility so much that the cover-up ends up being worse than the crime. Like, you have to be okay with people laughing at you a little bit if you've made a mistake. And I don't think there's much harm in owning up to that particular mistake. It's not like any of us are going to say Jay Williams doesn't know basketball. Like, it's just whatever. It's a brain fart. It's a mistake. He didn't know. But I do think it gets compounded by what happens next, which is people are laughing at your credibility.
Yeah, but well, hold on a second, because for Jay Williams, because he does what he does, his credibility means a lot more to him than it does to, let's say, me, okay? His credibility means a lot to him. I agree with you. If he comes out and admits he makes a mistake, I don't think there's much blowback, but and that was a pretty big mistake for a guy who prides himself as being a basketball expert, but his credibility means a lot to him. So I kind of understand why he would go to such great lengths to protect him. Like, what is Jay Williams without his basketball credibility?
I think this hacker thing damages his credibility more, because now he's just, like, everyone just thinks he's full of shit. Whereas I think he could have easily just been like, I don't know what I was thinking. I completely lapsed. Like, it was just a mistake. I'm an idiot. Everyone make fun of me. Haha, it's over in like 2 days.
Now we're victim shaming.
I'm with Jessica on this. I don't believe that the first mistake is as worse as the second. I don't think it's as bad as the second. I don't. Because the first mistake is everyone, oh, you got to be kidding. What a fool. The second mistake is not only you're a fool, but now look at what you do to cover up that you're a fool. You're also somebody who can't be trusted to tell the truth about your mistakes. Like, I really do think that the second mistake is worse than the first one.
And maybe this is the Stugotz in me, but I also think it's healthy for media members to admit that they're wrong sometimes, because I think that actually builds credibility with the audience when you can admit, hey, I got something wrong, I'm going to correct it on the record. And that way the audience kind of knows, like, all right, this guy, he trusts us, and he, isn't going to just go up there and spew a bunch of crap and never be held accountable to it.
It is an interesting thing to talk about, though, Stugotz, the idea of, in this particular climate, and this isn't one of those cancel culture situations, but in this particular climate, I have found spaces where the apology can make things worse, where if you apologize for something, all of a sudden you're bringing yet more attention to it. For example, I have still not been able to shake. This is something that people have enjoyed throwing back at my face. We had a poll one day on this show. We were talking about, and I forget the name of the Orlando Magic player who blew out his knee after being the one guy who did not kneel during anthem and during the bubble. And that player, we were talking about specifically on the show how the internet was asking the cruel question.
Jonathan Isaac.
Thank you. The cruel question of, is it funny that he injured his knee after not kneeling? And on our show, we said again and again that it's not funny. But one of the mistakes we made is that we put it up on a poll while asking the question, is this funny? And I think if the poll had just stood alone with that as the context, it might have been less bad than what it became. What it became was, I'm like, oh, shit, we shouldn't have put that up as a poll. Let me just apologize for this real quick because we shouldn't have put it up as a poll. And then the apology became weaponized. And look at woke Le Batard. I didn't think we were doing the thing that we were being accused of. And then yesterday, Philadelphia fans are still throwing that in my face as something that we did. And the apology ended up making that entire situation worse than it was. So I'm not sure if nowadays all the time you can say that an apology actually buys you anything, because there are plenty of people who aren't interested and can't be trusted with the vulnerability of an apology because they want to weaponize it.
Well, in this situation, it's either an apology or it's a made-up story about a hacker. If you don't believe that the hacker thing is accurate, which I think everyone except Billy agrees that's a little far-fetched. So which one is better? Because I tend to think that just being honest is always the better option.
Agreed. Except for the instance I just gave you, which it made something like you could say almost always, but sometimes you end up on the almost instead of the always, and it ends up making a situation worse. But I mentioned, Stugotz, the Philadelphia fans are coming out after me, and I want to give the context to this because the other day I thought I said something not only harmless but obvious, just as much as something subjective can be fact, which is Philadelphia fans sort of pride themselves on their cruelty, and they are a mean fan base by reputation and by deed. And, you know, of course, many years, decades ago, somebody threw batteries at Santa Claus, but people know that Philadelphia fans are mean. And one of the things, and I was talking about Ben Simmons and how mental frailty is particularly ill-suited for the cruelty of that environment. I thought I was saying something obvious. Philadelphia fans became very defensive. And this is the part I found funny, Stugotz. Without anything in the way of awareness of irony that I could discern, they defended themselves from accusations of cruelty by being really, really cruel to me.
Hey, we're not cruel.
They
Watch
called
us be
me
cruel.
so many names, so many mean names. And you know how funny I
While
find...
defending their ability to not be cruel.
That's right. Yes. That is how that happened. And without any awareness or irony of it, just meathead screaming at me. And I was sort of putting them in a bit of a no-win position because defending that your fandom isn't cruel in an arena, Stugotz, where I've told you one of the big stupid things that I think exists in this world where we work over many years here is people arguing about who's a better fan than who, right. Like just these silly arguments. I was just talking about the macro about how difficult it must be if you're dealing with public mental frailty specifically to work in Philadelphia, right? That's what I was talking about, that portion of it. It wasn't a gratuitous shot at Philadelphia fans. I just saw Stephen A. Smith taking a certain pride on television of having worked in a market that is especially tough. And so that's what I was reacting to. I wasn't just flippantly throwing out some reputation thing on Philadelphia.
I know what you were saying, but I do think, Dan, and I said this when you brought it up, I think any fan base would be upset with the way Ben Simmons played in that postseason. I think any fan base in America would be cruel because the number one pick, the money involved, the fact that it appears that he's not working on basic things that he should be working on, the fact that he was scared of the moment. I think most fan bases would actually be cruel to a player if they did that in their market. If Ben Simmons played in Brooklyn, if he played in New York, if he played in L.A., if he played in Memphis, I think everyone would get on Ben Simmons for the way he played in this postseason.
You will get no disagreement from me on that, but go ahead and name all of the cities that you associate with fan cruelty.
Philadelphia.
Thank you, Stugotz. Like, yeah, I don't know what you're arguing, because but it's a few that have this reputation, and it's been earned. It's not right. It's not a reputation that began because people started just making stuff up about a city. Now, they can think that they've improved and been better, but Philadelphia is known as one of the meanest sports fandoms that you will find.
I mean, hell, the Islanders fans threw trash at the Islanders, and they won the game, the first Game 7 last night.
Right, but I think a lot of that with Philadelphia fans, like some of the stuff they've done is ridiculous, uncalled for. But I think if they're being mean or cruel, if you want to call it, to Ben Simmons, I understand why. That's all I'm saying. They've gone over the line before, Dan. There's no question about it. But I'd be angry at Ben Simmons if I was a Philadelphia
Stugotz,
fan.
You always feel entitled to the cruelty of your sports voice. That's why you're sports emotional fan. Like, you always feel entitled to be as cruel as possible to the human beings doing stuff because they make $35 million million a year. Like you're the
Well,
voice.
and because I care about the teams, Dan, I'm passionate about my teams. I care about them. And if a guy's not performing to the level I want him to perform at, or I expect him to perform at, then I'm going to be mean to him. I'm sorry.
Well, you're not sorry because
I'm not. You're right.
You're defending it right now. And if in other relationships, human relationships that I gave you, if I said to you, hey, these people really care about each other, and also one of them is really cruel to the other, you would say, yeah, that's not great. That's not great for the relationship. But I know why you feel entitled to that. Yes, sports fans feel entitled very often to be mean, now more than ever with the anonymity and the access of the internet. But yeah, Roy is right. And it brings me to something we should have talked about earlier, which is Kucherov gets hurt and all of a sudden it goes from 8-0 to Tampa Bay can be beaten. As soon as Kucherov gets hurt, all of a sudden the unfair cheating Tampa Bay Lightning become a different team.
Absolutely right. A major difference when Kucherov is not in the lineup. The power play got worse, and it was just a bad sight for the Lightning giving up that lead.
Their power play with Kucherov, Dan, they are scoring at a 40% clip. When he doesn't play, they're at a 20% clip, which is still top 10 in the NHL without Kucherov. Think about what I'm saying. When he's in the lineup, it goes from top 10 to number 1 by a lot. 40%. I mean, listen, the K in Kucherov stands for karma. He's not going to be available for Game 7, and he shouldn't be available for Game 7. You know who will be available? Barry Trotz. Oh, this is going to be fun. Trotz in a must-win Game 7. I am telling you, if Tampa wins, plan on attending a funeral afterwards, the funeral of Barry Trotz. How about that? You're going to have to kill him.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
I want to get to this woman who got 120 hours of community service and a $500 fine for being a part of an insurrection that represents something that has no precedent in our lifetime in terms of an attack on American soil on democracy. A $500 fine, okay? So in the NFL, if you wear the wrong socks, you get a fine 10 times more than that if the league deems you in violation of their uniform code. We'll get to that in a second, but I just want to marvel at the Stugotz, and lest you think that it is a character, Stugotz is shady, even by the standards of our city, okay? A shiny city filled with shady people here in Miami. Stugotz is shady, and so during the break, he was still hung up on, well, you know, Jay Williams' basketball credibility matters to him. And it was just funny to watch him dissect that and sort of understand the lie because Jay Williams chose to protect his basketball credibility instead of his actual credibility, which took a bigger hit as a human being, and you understood it somehow. You were like, yeah, I get why you just start lying in that circumstance, because it's so embarrassing as a basketball expert to make that particular mistake.
It's such a basic mistake. I can't believe, if he did indeed make that mistake, I can't believe Jay Williams did not know that Doc Rivers and Casey Jones were the head coaches of the Boston Celtics, and throw in Bill Russell, the greatest winner of all time. But Dan, his basketball credibility pays him a lot more than his actual credibility. And so I understand if someone would go to great lengths to try to protect that basketball credibility. I would.
Stugotz, what I would say to you is his actual credibility being impugned can get him fired. His basketball credibility taking a momentary hit when he is clearly an expert on basketball is something that just makes people laugh for a little while.
I guess you're right, man. I chose the right path. I am so happy with the path. I don't have to worry about any of this crap.
Not only that, though, but you view everything through that prism. Yeah, I can be cruel to people. It's okay to throw crap at the Islanders. Like, I can be mean to anybody. I can lie. How do you not realize that you're a unicorn, that nothing like you exists? You're a greasy unicorn with a heater in its mouth and 5-day-old stubble on its face that no one can trust. Instead of a lovable unicorn, you're the one that ends up doing, just shitting on people as it flies by, saying, look, oh, isn't that a cute unicorn? No, you have a different set of rules than anybody, Stugotz. Media members lie. Look at what happened to the credibility of Brian Williams because he exaggerated a story about being at war. And I understand that the rules are different.
It was pretty bad, Dan.
But this one was pretty bad too, Stugotz. What I'm witnessing there was so obviously, it's not even that it was bad as a credibility hit, though it was that. It was so poorly thought out that it's not a believable lie, Stugotz. It's something that most people are looking at and saying, no one would hack you and do that. No one.
But you're still left with a tiny bit of doubt as to whether or not Jay Williams, what happened there, is telling the truth. You still have a sliver of doubt, Dan. Maybe Jay Williams is telling the truth, and maybe he still has some basketball credibility. Listen, when you're Jay Williams and you make a mistake that is that colossal, Dan, you got to try and cover it up. I mean, you have to. It's so bad, Dan, that you have to. It's so bad. This isn't like, hey, the Celtics have only won 15 championships and they won 60. This is not knowing the basics of basketball. Sorry.
Stugotz, I'm saying that sliver of doubt that you're talking about, that this is bad enough, that sliver of doubt that you're talking about is what keeps him from getting suspended or worse. That only that sliver of doubt, because you can't be doing that, Stugotz. Adnan Virk got let go by the company, not for what he did, but because of what happened afterward. That's not something that you can do. You can't do that with people. Got to be able to trust that you're telling the truth, Stugotz. They've got to be able to trust that they're turning on their television. They don't have to be able to trust that you know what you're talking about, or that you're going to get all your facts right, or that you're never going to make a mistake. They have to be able to trust that you're telling the truth. And It's a pretty bad one. We could just sit here and make fun of it, but what I'm telling you is that when that bounces around in executive offices, and what we're talking about is, can we trust you to be telling the truth to us and to the people on television? It's not an insignificant thing.
Yeah, but think about the truth here. A basketball expert who hosts their pregame and postgame show, who hosts their morning show, who went to Duke University, who was selected top number 1, 2, or 3 in the NBA draft, did not know that the Celtics had 3 black coaches in their history. You didn't know that.
Okay, but give me some other. Stephen A. Smith, I'm looking at him on my television right now. Stephen A. Smith, didn't he have with the Chargers, didn't he have a key to a game being something, and that guy wasn't even playing? That some player was supposed to be in a game, and he built his entire analysis around that, and that guy wasn't even in the game. In fact, Stephen A. Smith had a month period where he made 3 or 4 mistakes where we were wondering, this dude's working too much. He's tired. He can't know everything about everything. And those are more minor than what it is that we're talking about here after Kevin Durant has called you a liar.
I actually think, in the grand scheme of things, there are much worse things to be wrong about. So why not just take this opportunity to kind of poke fun at yourself and be wrong? It's not like he's saying anything harmful to other people. He just made a mistake. Just own up to it. It's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but again, it depends. Jess, it depends.
Here we
Make
go.
yourself Jay Williams.
Here we go.
It's
not that bad, but here's where he's going to tell you it's bad. It's not that bad, but here's where he's going to tell you how bad it is.
No, it's a bad mistake. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a harmful mistake. He didn't fabricate something. He didn't slander somebody. He didn't do something that could get himself sued or the company sued. It's a trivial. I mean, I don't want to say trivial. I mean, it's just an egregious error if you're a basketball fan. Yes, but it could have been a lot. You could get a lot worse things wrong when you're in his position.
You're right. In the grand scheme of things, it's really not that big of a deal. But Smetty, help me out here. How would you explain that away? If you wanted to tell the truth, you just said, I'm tired, I made a mistake?
Brain fart. Why does it have to be an excuse? I'm a human being. Hey, that was a stupid thing I did. Sometimes we do stupid things. My bad. It's not that hard, Stugotz. It doesn't create the echoing laughter where we're still talking about it today.
Do you guys do research for people on their birthday? Because this is something that has happened to me lately where I will text 3 or 4 people just to verify that it's the person's birthday before I text them happy birthday, just because I want to make extra sure that I'm not texting them, hey, happy birthday, which is a nice gesture. But if you're wrong, then they're like, we're not really that close. You don't know my birthday.
Billy, have you ever texted someone and said happy birthday and then they said it's actually not my birthday and you say, sorry, I was hacked?
I get hit all the time with birthday on the wrong day because somebody has created a fake Facebook account that has my wrong birthday. And so every year I get inundated. I don't even know what month it is. 6 months.
That too.
6 months before my birthday, I get inundated by people who don't actually know me so well, wishing me a happy birthday on a day that is not my birthday. Why do you get that, Stugotz?
He's making that up.
I did. Billy, go check my Facebook account. It has the wrong birthday on there. I didn't create the Facebook account. Someone on our staff created my Facebook account. It has the wrong birthday. But if someone texts me, hey, happy birthday, I thank them, even if it's the wrong day. I pretend it is my birthday.
It is double birthdays, Dan. You should celebrate this, not get mad at people.
I mean, who doesn't want more birthdays?
Stugotz will never miss an opportunity to lie either. Like, he just likes lying.
I'm not sure that I believe that.
I mean, actually, I just looked it up. Stugotz has a Facebook account, John Weeder, and it says his birthday's May 2nd.
Thank you.
That is not his birthday.
He finally told the truth.
Let's get to this story here. Yes, Hunter Henry, by the way, Ryan Cortez is telling me, was the Charger that wasn't even playing that season, and Stephen A. Smith created analysis. It's one of the dangers of being on live television and live radio. There is the picture of Stugotz's fake. Wow, that is a bad. Why is that such a bad picture of you on your fake Facebook account?
Dan, what it is, that picture is, if you remember, I dove into a pool at a hotel and I scraped my nose on the bottom of the pool. that was right after I scraped.
Chris, put that picture back up on the screen because, yes, he looks. It's hard to explain to people how generally defeated and pathetic Stugotz looks in that photo on his.
Diamond bright.
Why would anyone want to add that face as a friend? Someone tell me.
I'm gonna
That little
request. I'm gonna
circle
request
with your
him.
picture looks like half the people in my DMs telling me that squids aren't smarter than humans. That's what they all look like.
Before I get to this insurrection story, can you take us through again what happened that you scraped your nose on the bottom of a pool because your depth perception is so bad?
So I figured this pool had a deep end and a shallow end like most pools, okay? And so I was diving into what I thought was the deep end of the pool, but little did I know, the pool was the same level all the way through. The entire pool was a shallow pool. So I dove in. Nice dive, by the way. I stuck the landing. Not a terrible amount of water on the splash. I'd probably give myself a 9.2 if I were in the Olympics. But I dove in, Dan, and then I just kept going down, figuring I was in the deep end. I scraped my nose on the bottom surface of the pool, the Diamond Bright, and it's very rigidy, and it hurts. It hurts.
It's like asbestos for the ground, right? It's like one of those popcorn ceilings for the ground a little bit.
Yes, yeah. I still have a scar. I mean,
I imagine you caused such a scene at whatever establishment it was that you did this to, right? Where you were like threatening to sue people, asking for free things. Like, you didn't come out embarrassed, like, oh my God, that was so dumb. I scraped my face on the bottom of the pool. Like, you started just blaming everybody else.
Yeah, entire weekend was on them.
I'd like to, just for a moment, allow everyone to understand that I believe that Stugotz is also telling the truth about how wonderful his dive was. And the reason I believe it to be the truth is because it wasn't the side of his face that was scratched. It wasn't under his eyes. It was perfectly the center of his face and the tip of his nose that got scratched because he decided just so effortlessly to land in the pool with perfect form until his nose grazed the asbestos on the bottom of the pool. There are no scratches anywhere else.
But if it was a perfect dive, wouldn't he have hit his hands first or like the top of his head?
My feet were sticking out of the water.
I believe his hands.
How shallow was his pool? You're not that tall.
He landed like a javelin. He just landed. It really is unbelievable, Stugotz. Chris, put that picture back up put that picture back up here so that we got because it was, as I recall, didn't he have his nose was red for about 8 days.
My skin came off.
Red and swollen. All right, so a $500 fine. This was, I believe most people had the same reaction to this. Even no matter your politics, maybe not. Maybe people do think insurrection on American soil is overblown and a $500 fine is what is merited there. But what have you guys found in a cursory search of the internet on what some other $500 or some other ridiculous things that you'd be fined for about that much or more than that?
Oh, Dan, GoBankingRates.com had an incredible list of ridiculous fines that you could get. For example, Dan, did you know in Delaware you could never use pet hair as monetary leverage? It's a Class B misdemeanor to sell, barter, or offer the fur of a domestic dog or cat. Wow. According to the state government website, this includes selling any products made from hair, which could result in a fine of $2,500 and a ban on owning a dog or cat for 15 years.
5 times as bad as an insurrection.
I got one here from the great state of Idaho. Misrepresenting the potato when it comes to grading and packaging in Idaho could get you slapped with a fine of up to $500 and maybe some jail time. They treat the potatoes like royalty up there.
Potatoes in Idaho, though, I mean, that's like, come on, guys. You ever
I
watched
kinda
the
understand
Great
that,
Potato Bowl? Yeah, you can't mess around with that potato.
It is. It's a religious artifact in Idaho. I actually believe it must be defended and protected at all costs.
Dan, talking too loudly in Alaska could get you a penalty of up to $2,000 or 90 days in jail. Talking too loud.
Wow.
4 times.
Well, I would defend I would say if you move to Alaska, what you want is silence. You move there for silence. Like, keep it down.
Chris Cody, put it on the poll, please. If you move to Alaska, is it because you want silence?
I also would say that Stugotz would be paying a hefty fine in Alaska.
Yes, he would be. Chris, what do you have?
In Goodyear, Arizona, if you spit in public, you can end up with 6 months of jail time or $2,500 fine.
Littering.
Do all your spitting in private.
You will find littering has $500 fines. Masks have $500 fines. Jessica, do you have anything on this front?
I read that in most states in the United States, actually, the charge for traveling with an unsecured load is a minor misdemeanor that carries a minimum fine of $500.
I've been traveling with an unsecured load on my back for 17 years.
Hey! Stugotz here. Let's take a minute for our friends over at Babbel. I love to babble. For most of us, learning a second language in high school or college wasn't exactly a high point in our academic careers. Now, thanks to Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app, there's an addictively fun and easy way to learn a new language. Whether you'll be traveling abroad, connecting in a deeper way with family, or you just have some free time, Babbel teaches bite-sized language lessons that you'll actually use in the real world. I chose Spanish simply to help my 2 teenage daughters get through their Spanish homework and their exams. Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go. Babbel designs their courses with practical, real-world conversations in mind, things you'll get to use in everyday life. You could choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you to improve your pronunciation and accent. Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to Babbel.com and use promo code Dan. That's BABBEL.com, code Dan, for an extra 3 months free. Babbel, language for life.
Have you had your phone number for your entire life, or have you had different phone numbers that you've had to like learn again?
Cell phone?
Yeah.
I've had the same cell phone number. I'm afraid to start over.
Me
honestly.
too.
I'd have to reach out. I shouldn't say I'd have to reach out to so many people because I talk to maybe 8 people in my life, right? So it's not a huge deal. Actually, you know what? I think that might be why I wouldn't start over, because I'd realize how little I actually have in terms of people in my life. You know, because if I go through my phone, you see contacts. I don't know. Can you see how many contacts you have on your phone?
If you scroll all the way to the bottom.
Does it say the number?
Yeah, it should say the number of contacts.
All right, hold on a second.
I've had the same phone number forever.
The unfortunate thing about the contact situation is if you get multiple phones, sometimes when you save them, they get duplicated. So I have maybe 5,000 contacts.
Jesus.
You have 5,000 contacts?
Yeah, except
Oh my
it's
God.
actually probably 100.
This guy
because they're all
knows
duplicated.
people.
No, Roy. There's no way. You have 50 numbers just repeated, or every number's repeated 50 times.
Well, I was exaggerating about.
I have 874 contacts.
That's a lot. Billy.
I don't think it is. I think you guys would have more. But
I definitely have less.
Can you?
No way.
I'm gonna pass you my phone, okay, Billy. I'm gonna pass you my phone.
Yeah.
Can you read me?
Oh my God,
what it
it's actually
says
more.
on the bottom of what it has there?
Mine says 13,229.
Holy shit.
Tony says 4 contacts.
How-
But I see more than 4.
How does it say 4? Can you read the number that's on top of the 4, by the way?
The number directly above 4 contacts is Joe Zagacki.
Josie.
I have a question for you guys. This is a serious question. When someone texts you, that's 13,000 is insane. Okay,
You have
when someone texts you,
13,000 contacts?
Yeah, because it's duplicated. It's probably actually 125.
Well, why don't you delete some of the duplicates?
Yeah,
Because
holy
it's
shit.
13,000, and I have to go through them one by one.
So, like, okay, for example, I have, and someone asked me the other day, I have, when Fancy Lad texts me, it says Chris Whittingham new 2018, right? Because he changed his phone number at one point in time.
That's what it says when he texts you. That's what it comes up as.
That's what I saved him as under my contacts. Chris Whittingham new 2018, right? But I don't believe that I ever went back and deleted the old Chris Whittingham because at the time there was different numbers and I wasn't sure which was his new one, which was his old one. And obviously when I saved it as new 2018, I probably should have deleted the other one. You know what? I did, actually. I was going to say, let's do it right now. I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to go down to 873. But I have deleted it. But he still is just Chris Whittingham new 2018.
Why don't you change that? Why don't you put new 2021?
Because then I'd get confused and I would think that he changed his number.
Wait a
It's the
second.
same number.
Why did Whittingham have to change his number?
Popular guy.
I do have also like some names that I've doubled up and I misspelled the first time and then I didn't find it, so I added it again. And I have just like I have, for example, not to brag, I have Chael Sonnen here,
Wow.
right? And then right above it, I have Chael Sonnen misspelled, missing the last letter of both his first name and last name for some reason.
Chael's a tough word to spell, though. Like a tough name.
Well, I mean, but I somehow missed the last letter of both names, so maybe I was in a rush that day. The thing that's the worst is when you're looking through your phone and it's like a very common name, and it's like, who the hell is this? Like, I don't know anyone with this name. Why do I have this name saved in my phone?
I'm looking through my
Okay,
contacts right now.
can I ask my important question now?
Don't remember
Yeah,
a
sorry.
majority of these.
When someone texts you something familiar, not just like, hey, what's up? Like someone texts you something and you don't have their number saved and it feels like someone you know, but you don't know who it is. How do you reply?
I mean, the only way you can reply, right? New phone, who dis?
No. I've been going along with at least 3 people whose
you have
numbers
no idea?
I haven't saved.
I'm
And-
with you, Billy. I did the same thing.
I've been going along with it, and it's at least 3 different people, and it's like, the thing is that they're such nice, meaningful texts, like, congratulations on the birth of your daughter. I'm so happy for you. It's like, oh my God, thank you so much. Oh, guys, I'm so happy for the move that you guys made with DraftKings deal. Like, this is so great. I'm like, thanks so much. And then, like, I'm just trying to piece things together, like, who could this be from the context of what the texts are? But the problem is it's one-sided because I'm not sure who it is. And it's just like the nicest people saying like the nicest things, and they know all about my life events, and they're just so happy for me. And it's like,
Exactly.
I can't then
Why can't you just say
who
new phone?
are you?
Why can't you just say I got a new phone?
phone, who
I
dis?
had your number, got
Because
a new phone.
it's rude to
everybody
say that
knows
when
that's a
someone's
lie.
saying something nice.
It's like a Jay Williams thing where you're clearly
feel
lying.
bad.
New phone.
Yeah, no, I can't do it. I can't do it because they're going to know, number one, that's a lie. And then they're also going to know that I've been in on this con for years now where I've just been saying like, oh my God, thanks so much. It's so great.
So
And-
they've texted you throughout your life accomplishments
Yeah.
every time, like, hey,
Yeah.
congrats on your communion. And you're like, thank you.
Well, I mean, obviously
I'm
not my
saying
first communion.
as an example.
Yeah,
though.
no, they've been texting me. I'm telling you, there's a couple that have gone back like 2 years,
Oh
and
my
I'm just in way too deep because the initial one, I felt like, well, I can't be rude and ask who this person is. They're being nice to me, right? And then I dropped it. But then they just come and they keep doing it for like nice things. And then I also look like a jerk because I never text them like, hey, happy birthday. Hey, I saw this news about you, whatever, because I don't know who this person
Like,
is.
Billy's very selfish.
It is. But I almost would rather have that level of judgment for being selfish than just flat out saying like, who are you again?
So I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
It's not going to paint me in a great light. There's been times, not often, but there have been times where I have the person's contact and I see that they text me and they'll ask me something and I'll say new phone, who does? It's bad. It's bad. It's
just because you don't want to talk to them?
Because I just have to make sure that that's the person that texts me, just making sure. It's bad. I just had to get that
You
off
have the
my chest.
contact saved and you'll still ask them who they are.
Yeah.
You feel like you're being entrapped?
Sometimes.
Really?
Just making sure.
So the 15 bank accounts, the double checking that people are who they say they are.
By the way,
covering bases.
Just for you, a little note: you have your red receipts on.
I do.
That's intentional.
Intentional, yeah. If you ever text me, except Roy wouldn't see it. But if anybody with an iPhone ever texts me, you will know that I saw your text.
I always think that you just forgot that because I figure every respectable person wants to turn that shit off.
No,
that's intentional. That's such a rude move. Honestly,
how is it rude?
To have that,
I love it. I read Tony.
No,
well,
you didn't
If
respond.
you text me, Jess, I will see and I will read it and then I'll reply.
But what if you don't?
I respect the move.
Well, here's the thing.
When you don't, it's a jerk move.
It's
wow, this asshole.
I never open it if I don't intend to text you back that day.
But what if it's important?
You do sometimes.
It's not that important.
You do. How do you
There's
not?
no way to know.
So you look at the text without actually clicking on it.
Exactly.
Like I do
have
see
the
sometimes
text-
where you'll go like hours. It's like, how has he not looked at his phone yet?
So you're ignoring text then is basically what you're admitting.
No, it's that maybe I don't have
Yes.
a correct answer for you, right, at the time, but maybe in a couple hours I will. So instead of waiting, say, hey, it's going to take me a little bit to find the answer, I'm just waiting, and then when I have the answer, I'll text you back.
But what do you do?
Like, Roy, you texted me last night, and I gave you the answer right away.
That's right.
I didn't have to wait for that.
No.
Sometimes if you text me and I got to wait, it takes me a couple hours.
Right.
But I want you to know that I saw it. It's very important to me that I know that you saw that I read your text.
I'd like to share something with the class, if I might. If you guys are open to having things shared.
It's a very
Not
safe
really,
space.
no.
I admitted that I text people new phone who does that I already have their contact.
Stugotz,
I'm ready.
I feel like you might enjoy this. You might kind of take some sense of pride in this. I, like many, and I'm vulnerable, I, like many, am part of group texts that I don't know half of the people in. And I don't understand why I've been lumped in on some of these group texts. I don't know why. And certain person in my life does this all the time. Every occasion. Christmas, New Year's, everything. Just lumps in basically everybody they know on one text, knowing full well that the majority of those people don't know each other. This past weekend, Father's Day. My first Father's Day, I got a Happy Father's Day. And you know what? I'm going to say it because she's not going to hear it. It was from my godmother. My godmother texted me and 15 other people, Happy Father's Day. We love you. So happy for you. Glad you're in our lives. Something like that.
Did you respond?
Well, hold on. So my cousin, who's my age, is also a father, and he was on this text. And we've privately had these conversations in the past where we were like, why are we included on this? Who are these people? I don't know any of these people, right? So the first person replied to that, thank you so much. We're in Bimini. It's having a great time, whatever, right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hello, Father's Day trip.
So then I texted my cousin, and I go, why are we in this again? And who the hell's in Bimini? Because that's all I'm going to be thinking about right now is who is in Bimini, right? So sure enough, he says, I'm going to solve this problem right now. He said, hey, who's in Bimini? So then we have about 15 other people whose numbers that we don't have, all kind of trying to catch up and see what's going on. The person says, oh, no, Bimini, he misunderstood. He said, oh, no, Bimini's in the Bahamas. So then I replied, I go, I think Bimini's actually part of the Keys. Right? Because now it's like, okay, this is how we're going to get out of these group texts moving forward. We're just going to be agitating the people in these group texts, and then we will never be invited back to these group texts. And sure, maybe it'll strain the relationship I have with my godmother moving forward, but it's a risk I'm willing to take if I never have to be part of these holiday group texts ever again, right?
So basically, what your normal life, basically, you're acting like Billy. In normal life.
Well, no, but with strangers. Normally, I just torment the people I know. Now these are strangers these are then strangers that I don't know, right?
But then you may know.
Oh, I found out that I did know.
You may know.
But here's the thing, and I'm gonna say the name because I'm gonna say the name because I don't know that this person is gonna hear this ever, and if they do, whatever. I've now outed myself as one of the participants in the chicanery that was going on Father's Day. My godmother.
Chicanery. Hold on a second. We need to. I'm texting Whittingham. Go on.
My godmother made the mistake of replying to the person that said that they were in Bimini and said, Renee, so glad to hear that. So now we have a name.
Ooh.
And now Renee, accidentally, just being pleasant and wishing everybody else a happy Father's Day, has given us a name for our fun on Father's Day. So Father's Day went on with us saying, you know what, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get the exchange.
Wow,
and I'll just read it
exciting.
to you. I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to read it to you because
what
you know
a
what?
betrayal of everybody involved in your private life. You know this isn't going to get back to all of these people?
Oh, I don't know that at all. But, you know, we're in too deep now. We've already got in here.
And it's their fault anyway.
By the way, Whittingham just texted me back and said, quote, I am a disease.
What?
Because you used chicanery.
He's a disease?
You used chicanery in his absence while sitting in that seat, and he is a disease. I put it on the poll. Chris Cody, is Chris Whittingham a disease?
An adorable disease, though. I mean, he really
A fancy
is.
disease.
So Renee let us know who he was, which was a mistake because now we have a name for Renee and we know what Renee's up to. He's in Bimini for Father's Day. So then my cousin and I are just kind of going back and forth, where he then starts flipping this on my godmother, and he's like, I thought we were special getting personalized Father's Day texts from my madrina, but I guess not. So then I'm like, maybe these are all her godchildren, and we're just all on the godchildren happy holidays text chain. Wow. So then we start asking Renee, why didn't you invite us to Bimini? Like, what's up, dude? That's not cool. Then we were asking about the weather because it was very rainy on Father's Day. Then she's getting upset because she's saying that we're wasting everybody's time doing this. To which I replied, Renee, envíanos unas foticos, please, with little praying hands, which is asking him to send us some photos of Bimini and what it is that they're up to. So then we're going kind of back and forth. We haven't heard from Renee in a couple of hours. And then at night, we're like, yo, Renee, like, are you good? Like, what's up, dude? We haven't heard from you. Like, how's it going? So then the next day, and he still hadn't sent any foticos, by the way, just to point that out.
Wait, this lasted overnight, like over a series of days?
We were very concerned about Renee. We hadn't heard from Renee in a number of hours. In fact, not since the initial text had we heard from Renee.
And it's not that big of an island.
It's
so there's not many places to go.
It was very rainy. We were concerned about Renee and his well-being. The next day, well, and by the way, in the meantime, and no one cares about the story anymore. In the meantime, we had now heard from.
Is it one of these stories that doesn't have an ending? One of these stories where you get on the landing strip and you end
all
up,
of his do, Dan.
Do you have? No, some of them have an ending. We don't have an ending here.
Well, okay, so we have now by the evening time found out how we know Renee, and we're kind of embarrassed by what we're doing because it is my cousin's husband's stepfather, and we did not know that we knew Renee. We just assumed this was a stranger that we've never met that we are in this group exchange with, and we're like, you know what, let's just burn this all down so we're never invited again. Let's just mess with Renee all day long on Father's Day, and then we'll never be invited back. But this is someone who we're going to see again. So at some point, Renee and my cousin and I are going to have to kind of face the music on this one.
Renee thinks you're friends at this point, right? Renee thinks you care about him deeply, no?
Renee the next morning texted back, I think by mistake you guys are including me in your chats, which is, I mean, a bit rude of Renee, but he's kind of piecing together, this has nothing to do with me. Why is everybody talking about me? So my cousin says, Renee, we're just worried about you, man. Like, how's Bimini? And then he sent a GIF of a crying Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants saying, not the same, very expensive, too many people from Miami.
Oh.
My godmother then, and I'm betraying everybody here, my godmother then says, Renee, I'm sorry. I included you in this message. I sent all the fathers in my family for Father's Day. And he said, it's okay. And then I said, Renee is family. And then I put Vin Diesel gif, him turning his head very slowly saying, you don't turn your back on family.
Right.
And then Renee said, I know, thank you.
My head would have exploded.
That was my Father's Day. And I will never be invited back to a group text, I believe.
Do you think, because you said when we left ESPN, how many of these people will I never hear from again? I am of the belief and near certainty that Dominique Foxworth has congratulated you on life achievements, but because you haven't saved his name in your phone, you are hearing from people at ESPN, but don't know you're hearing from people at ESPN.
Oh, wow.
You haven't considered that?
I had not. Well, I think I've told this story before. So I got a call one time from a number that I didn't know, and it was a FaceTime audio call. And I was like, I don't know this number, and FaceTime audio is kind of like a weird way to be trying to reach out to me. I'm going to kind of let this one go, right? And I didn't answer it. And then like 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, I got another call from the same number, regular call. And I was looking it up, and I was like, this area code sounds familiar, but I don't have this number saved. So I do a quick Google search while it is that it's ringing, and I see this is from Connecticut, and I'm like, maybe they're going to ask for something back that I haven't sent or something. Like, let me answer this just in case. I don't want to get in trouble. Let me pick it up, and I'm sure, it's a Friday night. It's kind of like a strange time to be calling me, but I'll pick it up and see who it is. It was Skip. I ignored Skip's call the first time he called me because I didn't have his number saved. And the second time I caught it, I'm like, oh, hello, Mr. Skipper. How are you? Happy evening here.
I wonder how many people thought that when you said Skip, they thought Skip Bayless.
Oh, I wish.
That's what I thought.
Can you imagine Skip Bayless calling you? How would that go?
And not answering?
You think he has a secret life, Skip Bayless, where he's just boring?
I think that he is in a hyperbaric chamber with embalming fluid and only comes out to give takes on television.
Do you think he runs his
Did you
Twitter?
guys see that horrible tweet? Billy, is that what you were going to say? The tweet he tweeted, like, why does LeBron follow Russell Westbrook's wife next up on FS1?
It was very strange.
Oh, no.
What? No.
No, that is... No.
He didn't send that.
No.
They broke it down, Dan. You have to break that down.
Well, the way that she just said it isn't like following her on social media. It's just following her.
Okay, he said on Instagram. This is from like 2 days ago. It says, why are LeBron and AD following Russell Westbrook's wife on Instagram? Now, on Undisputed.
Oh, God.
That's bait, man. Bait.
I'm tuning in.
I mean, he is great at that.
Oh,
Really
no. If by great, you mean awful.
Oh, that too.
So why?
If
Why?
Chris Whittingham is a fancy disease, would you guys say that he's gout?
What Whittingham disease? What's the Whittingham? What is the fancy disease that you think of when you think of Whittingham? I think of
all the kings had
condescension.
Say all the kings had gout?
Yeah, like Henry VIII. Didn't he have gout?
I don't think of it as a glamorous disease, though. I think of gout as a funny disease or a funny word. Not funny if you have it. A funny word as a disease, but I also don't think, like, leprosy is not fancy. I don't think that, can disease even be fancy?
I feel like there's fancy diseases I've never heard of that just strike the people with means and wealth. Is that possible?
Like somebody gets injured on an equestrian course, maybe.
Affluenza or something.
Affluenza, there you go.
Affluenza.
Maybe that's what Whitty has, affluenza.